Take a 22mm socket, take the lug nuts off. Take off the wheel. Want to remove this cotter pin right here. If you have to, use a screwdriver, just pry it up a little bit. Grab some side cutters. There you go, take that out. Now use an 18mm wrench, loosen up the nut, and get that nut loose. You might not be able to get it off because the CV shaft might be in the way, and that's okay. We're going to separate the ball joint. I'm going to use a pickle fork. There's other front end tools you could use. Slide it in there. Take this bolt out here, use a 21mm wrench and a 21mm socket. Take the nut off. Just try to pry this bolt out. Might have to wiggle the control arm a little bit. Or even use a pry bar. Yep. And just pry it out. There's two 18mm nuts that you need to remove up top. Use a 18mm wrench and then a 15mm socket on the bottom. Take those off. And just pry the control arm down. You might need a pry bar back here. Now line the control arm up. You can line this part in first. And line up the bushing over here. You can use a rubber mallet or a dead blow hammer just to line this up a little bit. And just use a pry bar. You can pry that bushing up. Take the bolt that goes in there. Get that started. Just use a punch. Just try to tap the bolt in a little bit. Put the nut up there. Before we tighten that down, take these two bolts. You want to get these lined up. You can use a screwdriver. Just try to pry this back so you can get the holes to line up. And take the nuts, get those started on top. Now, with the 18mm wrench up top, tighten these bolts down. And you want to torque these bolts to 52 foot-pounds. Now with the control arm, you want this as close to ride height as possible when you go to tighten this bolt down and torque it. So if you have the ball joint out of the knuckle and have the arm pushed up a little bit, that'll be close. Ideally, you want the whole suspension all together with the wheels on the car on the ground and then torque this, but that's not easy to access, so do it right now. Tighten that up. Now we're going to torque that to 85 foot-pounds. Now we're going to insert the ball joint into the knuckle. You might have to move the ball joint out a little bit or in. Watch your fingers. And before it slides up all the way, you want to get the castle nut. Put the castle nut on. Get that started. And then we're going to tighten it up with a 18mm wrench. Once it's snug, You want to torque that, if you have the ability to torque it with a torque wrench, to 89 inch-pounds. Remember, it's inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. And then an additional 165 degrees. So if you can't get an angle meter in there, do the best you can. And now you want to make sure the cotter pin will line up with the hole. If it doesn't line up, just tighten it up a little bit more. You never want to loosen the nut. It goes through. And then you can take some side cutters and just bend the cotter pin. And just trim the excess. Put the wheel back on. Put the lug nuts on. Now I'm going to torque the lug nuts to 140 foot-pounds in a cross pattern to tighten the wheel down evenly. Now I'll just go around again, double check. Keep in mind, after you do this job, you want to bring the vehicle to a repair shop, or you can have it aligned so you don't have premature tire wear.